Hello, Monique.
How's it going?
Fine, thank you. And you?
I am good.
That's great. I'm gonna wait a little bit until more commissioners join to go live on Facebook, okay?
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
See you.
We're early.
Yeah.
Kathy. I see you there, but I don't see you on. Kathy, are you there? Or just logged in early? Looks like she's not. Hey, Mindy. What's good?
Good to see you.
How's it going?
I saw Davis yesterday and he told me about his run-in with your husband and that he had no idea.
It's so cute. So but it's a testament to our marriage that people think that we should know each other even when we're not together. Like Davis is like, I gotta introduce you to that to Monique. It's like 15 years too late, homie. But that's good. That is good.
From the way that he told it, he made it sound like, oh, I know someone who's married to. I thought he knew that your husband was Panamanian, and so
yeah, so that's what happened. I guess
Okay.
we were just at different tables, and so it came up in conversation that he was Panamanian, and and then clearly visually he's Black and then a Hispanic. So it's probably like, oh, this is that phenomenon that Monique's been talking about. And so apparently on Davis's little paper, he had my husband's name, which is Federico, and my name, so that he would remember to introduce us at the end of the night. And so then at some point during the conversation, he learned that I was actually his wife, so no introduction needed. It had already happened. It was cute enough.
Y'all should have, let it just.
Yeah, my husband's not as cruel as me. For David, I would have been like, nice to meet you, good sir. But I definitely, and my husband, he wasn't in on it, so he probably let him off really easy. It was interesting. How you doing, Kathy? I was calling you earlier, like out loud, but
I am doing so great. I know I got a lot of plates in the air. I'm doing great. I love that. I love that dinner. I mean, I had the greatest.
Which location were you at?
I was at VLS.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
I just had a fantastic.
We'll have to
As
chat.
a matter of fact, we're meeting again.
Really? Your table?
My table.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Now that's the first I've heard of anybody wanting to.
Oh man, we were hugging each other at the end of this thing. It was.
I can't wait to talk to you about it. I didn't get a vibe for Violette because, but I did have lunch with Tawana today, and we were talking about Arnett's, and so then I was at Villa Cristina, so I know about those two, so I have to catch up with you to.
Yeah, we have to catch up on what really went on at all of them.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it was a very, very well. I know my group. The only thing that I could see that we could change, because I couldn't get in to register myself, so I couldn't do the survey. But the one thing that I could see, and then the people at my table brought it out, is that there were tables where there were people who were all the same race.
Mm.
Saying this is not. This is no. This is,
they didn't get them mixed up.
They weren't mixed. And at our table, we were like all the way to the back, and they were like, "Okay, so this is supposed to be social justice. Why are we still in the back of the bus?"
Oh my Lord, no! I think at our location, I thought it was almost intentional the way they mixed up the tables. It seemed like somebody must have had it definitely wasn't random because they were really mixed, and I was told the same for the Arnett's location. So
not only by race, but at our location, I know if you registered with somebody else, you were put at a different table than that person.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it was one thing when I figured out that Monique and her husband were at two different tables, but
we just talked about that.
but there were two ladies that came together, and they were just friends, and one of them was at table 1 and one at table 3 or something like that. So
my husband and I registered separately with different accounts, and so I didn't know if there was any linking of us in the behind page, but it is 5:33. Will someone elevate Janice to the meeting? She is apparently in the main gallery, and she needs to be in the attendee side, and Zaki as well.
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll take care of it.
Thank you, Marcella.
And I'm gonna wait a little bit for more people to join before going live on Facebook.
Yeah.
Also,
at 5:35, if you'll go ahead and do it,
Okay. Also, I'm adding the minutes from not the last meeting, but the previous one.
Mhm.
To Basecamp.
Yes.
So if you can take a look at it, I'll just I'm sorry, I'm just gonna take care.
Okay.
About 1 second.
We need to approve those. That would be
I will go ahead and do that.
The July 14th meeting. Is that
Yes, 1 second. Just let me move. Okay, and then. No. Okay, they should be now able to join.
Okay, is Zaki as well?
Yeah, I already did, but I don't know why it's not. I already promoted him to panelist, but it's not.
Okay.
1 second, I
Maybe
don't
he
know.
needs
No,
to-
okay,
Alright,
he'll join you soon. Okay.
Okay, I see him here. It's coming in hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Connie too.
Oh, Connie is as well. Great deal. Hey, Zaki. See, I was looking out for you. I was
Hey,
like,
Monique. Yeah.
not on the right side of the table. Cool. All right. Well, it is 5:35. Marcella, when you have gone live, let me know and we will get
Yeah, I let you know in just a second when, yeah,
started.
okay. I just uploaded the minutes in case you have some time to kind of take a look at them. And if everybody's okay, I can go live on Facebook now, okay?
Okay.
Okay, now we're,
All righty. Well, it is 5:36 and I will be calling this meeting of the.
one second.
Okay.
I'm still connecting to the,
All right.
on the page. No.
Better have the agenda up.
It can be finicky sometimes, Marcella.
No, I'm sorry, there's something, no.
It says it's live now.
No, but no, I did something, no,
Okay.
1 second, I did,
Take your time. We're okay. We kind of
I did a
here.
mistake.
We don't mind.
Mindy,
Yes. Oh. You still there?
Yeah, we lost her and she promoted Kathy to host.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Nice, Kathy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
There's
The host
no
is the
increase
mostest.
of pay that comes with these duties. You don't get it.
Davis, I thought you weren't coming today. Didn't
I
see-
wasn't, and then I had 3 clients cancel all in like 20 minutes of each other. So
It was the universe's way of saying you might as well do this. huh?
yeah, I might as well do something every night this week. Let's do it.
But
So-
it's been crazy.
It has been crazy. And that was the thing is my wife said, I'll go coach. And I said, baby, no, just let me act like I still have something to do with this gym too. So
Yeah. Don't let her push you out. You know. That is fun. Well, I don't know where Marcella is. Maybe she'll come back.
Still on Facebook Live, so
I know.
um,
But should I go ahead and get started? Do you think?
oh, here she's. Hi, Marcella.
Okay. Did everyone get an opportunity to do the civic dinners? I know Kathy, Davis, Zaki, Janice. Did you? Where'd you go? What location? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I was at Eat Italiano.
Oh, okay. See, there we go. We got another different place. I think we might have everyone represent. Anyone went to El Postro here? I think that's the only one that we don't have representation in our group here.
Indy
Because
went
you were
there.
at Arnett's, right?
I did Arnett's, yes.
Okay, yeah. So, and Zaki and Davis and I, all 3 of us were at Villa Christina, and Kathy was at Petite Violet. Or Violet, or I don't know how, so. Okay, so how did you like it, Janice? How did you like your location?
It was interesting. I had a table of all men,
Huh.
and it was a little noisy. It was hard to hear. That's one thing that I found. But it was interesting conversation. The men are geared more to economy, politics, that kind of thing. So a little different.
Now we lost Mindy. Y'all, we out here in this world by ourselves for real. Like,
She said she'd be right back.
that's fine. Yeah, that had to make for an interesting conversation. We were saying, I think Kathy said that her tables didn't appear to be diverse. And I felt like over at Villa Christina, somebody must have had like pictures or something of all of us, because they really seemed to be able to get diverse groups to make sure that, you know, people didn't, they had a nice mix at each of the tables. Even though there were three Black women at my table, but I think at that point there really wasn't anywhere else they could be that wouldn't have had three Black women at that table. But yeah, that is interesting. I wonder how that turned out, the conversation. But Kathy says her and her people, they were cool. They're gonna meet for lunch again. Like they're friends now.
It was a great conversation. It was just, you know, we did go through the questions, but also we had questions. I think there were 6 Black people and 2 white people. One of the white people that was Jewish. And so the conversation was phenomenal. And then we all got to be friends at the end. We were all good friends. So it was really, really a very good conversation. And we're going to do it again.
I think I want to put on, I guess when we start talking about stakeholder engagement tonight, maybe we can find a way as we get to that part. I want you guys to think about kind of your civic dinner.
Yes, we are. Wait. Hello, can you hear me? I'm sorry. We are live now. So
okay.
Thank you.
Before I call meeting to order again, just remember, just kind of think on your civic dinner experience, and then try to use that to inform your input on our plan for stakeholder engagement, so that we have a agenda driven reason to continue these discussions about our experiences at the civic dinners. Cool. It is 5:42. I am 12 minutes late in calling our subcommittee meeting to order, the subcommittee for police accountability and use of force. I thank all of you for coming out. I thank anyone on Facebook for joining in and your patience. I am going to go ahead and call attendance. Let's see, I have a commissioner. Oh gosh, I have our roster up here. I want to make sure. Okay, Commissioner Zaki Anwar. Commissioner SJREC, SJREC is absent today, our co-chair. He has out of town work business. Commissioner Connie Todd.
Present.
Commissioner Janice Nasi.
Here.
Nisi. Commissioner Lauren Collins. Commissioner Davis Burnett.
Present.
Commissioner Kathy Wells.
Present.
Commissioner Kirk Nelson. Commissioner Jeremiah Henson. I think I need to take him off our list. I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that is all. And Commissioner Monique Wright Hudson. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We have a very simple agenda. It is, again, a repeat of the agenda that the meeting that we were unable to have, 2 weeks ago. And at some point on the agenda, we will discuss our meeting cadence to figure out if this is working for everybody and whether we feel like we're moving forward productively. So one of the first thing on the agenda tonight was, again, to continue to discuss our 4 Ps and any remaining questions. I do think at the last meeting we had, all of the groups that previously had their assignments went through their 4 P assessment Kathy and Lauren did want to have some more time with their information. I don't know if we've now waited too long for Kathy to offer any thoughts or input on that, but I did want to give you an opportunity to offer anything you'd like, if you recall kind of where you two left, and you can remind us what your particular area was and any thought processes that you had on that.
Hey, Lauren, our particular interest was police engagement. I mean, police community engagement, I think that's what it was. And so we said we were kind of like table it till all of you get finished. And then I haven't had a chance to talk to Lauren because he's doing some acting or something, so he's out of town a lot. But I've had a chance to do research on it and also to look into what community engagement of Brookhaven actually. And so, and then looking at it, you know, I had talked to a couple of people about it, and they feel like, yeah, they do have community engagement, but it's not as, I would have some suggestions as to what we would like to see more as far as the community is concerned. You know, they do the shop with the cop, which is very common in every police, you know, every police precinct. They all shop with the cop. We have that, and then they go in and they do one thing with the schools, but it's not quite enough. And so I will have a report the next meeting. Our next meeting, I'll do a full report on it.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm supposed to do a report. I will have a report.
And I think that your particular area ties in so well to the stakeholder engagement piece, obviously what's next on our agenda for tonight, but then some suggestions that were made as well. I think Davis had mentioned in base camp about doing civic dinners with our law enforcement partners and the police officers themselves, and how that could be beneficial as well to just have those conversations directly with police officers outside of the ones that have been lent to our work. And so Davis, I think that there was some feedback. I'm pretty sure you're following the comments a lot closer than I was, but I think as we're talking about, we'll go ahead and we'll use this on both of those agenda items. More questions about the 4P assessment, again, looking at Kathy and Lauren's area, as well as the next part of our agenda for tonight, which was to discuss stakeholder engagement. Do you have any thoughts on that? What was your question for anybody who's not following base camp closely, and kind of the feedback that you've been receiving on that?
Yeah, so the question was, would the city pay for inclusive dinners, what we called civic dinner until last week, inclusive dinners with actual police officers and staff from the PD with, I think it would just make more sense for our subcommittee to be the hosting members of the commission. And I was asking SJREC, I didn't even know that Major Harrell was on the thread, and she was quick to stand up and say that was a great idea. And so she was going to start looking at it. It is something I believe in only because, and that's, you know, Kathy alluded to it, this proximity breeds empathy, right? You begin to learn one another, know one another. And I think if they know, I think officers can probably wonder, well, what's this commission doing and what are they going to want from us? What are they going to, how's my life going to change? And if we sit down with them and we ask the same questions that we asked, you know, the community members, and we get their answers, then it also gives all of us a feel for, you know, how the police department views citizens, just like how citizens view the police department, which can really help us build, going forward, help us build what suggestions and improvements we can find and promote to the city council when we make the recommendations in December.
I think that's an excellent idea. I was really excited to hear about that, especially again, hoping that we're giving a large cross section of police officers, maybe some who have been with the force a long time, different races, new recruits, just to have their, my human resources background has me concerned about it. I think that the police department, PR, and all these people are probably like, wait, hold on, you know, you don't want your folks out there just talking, but I mean, they're sending them to other community events. They could be cornered any day, you know, to be engaged with stakeholders. But I think it is a little different. So I would love to see what the official response to that is. And even if, you know, we can't find the budget to pay for more dinners, just figuring out a way to have those open conversations. You know, maybe we could do a BYOB, kind of like Davis's first dinner, where it's not free, but you thought it was free. There's a whole backstory there, y'all. We'll have to bring y'all up to speed. But that was it was interesting. Mindy, you sound like you're trying to say something.
Yes.
You look like you're trying to say something.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't. I can now.
Okay. I talked to Major Harold today, actually. She had sent an email because she had watched our last meeting, the recording of our last meeting, and she wanted to offer just like some clarity on some of the things that we were discussing, which I'll hopefully get to later. But I did just want to say we did touch on civic dinners, and she is more than happy to help us try to coordinate something. And I don't know if I haven't looked at the base camp thread yet, but I asked her, is this something you want to like open up to community or just keep it between officers and commission? And she said right now she'd be more comfortable with it being between commissioner, like I think our subcommittee and officers. I don't know if that was the original idea.
I think that's what Davis was saying, and I would advocate for that too, if that is going to be part of our stakeholder engagement. I mean, we have to remember that stakeholders are everybody, right? Like it's the community, but it's also law enforcement, they're stakeholders as well. And so if it's part of our stakeholder engagement, it would definitely be the committee. Now, to the extent that we need more hosts other than just our committee members, then maybe we'll open it up to other commissioners. Just because at the end of the day, no matter what subcommittee you're on, you definitely are committed to the work and now trained in the process because we've, you know, had several dinners. So that is definitely something that I would want to follow up with under the stakeholder engagement piece. And Davis, that was an excellent idea. Does anybody have any concerns about that particular opportunity potential for the inclusive or / civic dinners with the police officers?
I think it's a great idea.
It's a good idea.
If Kathy, Janice, and Connie think it's a great idea, then you know man.
I just think that we
get that one out of the park, Davis.
We're gonna have to engage. We're gonna have to engage with police, and I think it's better for us to meet with them first. We come up with questions, and then we can open it up to the community, because I think the community should have, you know, away from the lights on and the sirens on, the community should be able to engage more with police officers. So we have packed questions for them to ask. They just can't ask any questions like, you know, I got stopped last night and somebody did such and such. That's why it has to be a controlled kind of environment.
I think Davis's suggestion is that we're having the same exact script that we had at our civic dinners and just hearing their perspective on, I mean, I'm thinking of all the questions and I would love a police officer's response to any of them, you know, especially what do you think we could do better? Or how can we achieve racial equity? In hearing that response from people with differing views, even at the dinners, was enlightening, for lack of a better word. Go ahead, Davis.
I was just going to agree with Kathy on that the reason we ask the same questions is so that we're getting answers, right? I guess equitable answers. Everybody's starting from a different place, and how's that going to melt into it? But I was going to give an example about, you know, I got stopped last night. So we sit down to eat. I was the last person at my table to get my food the other night. And the man sitting to my right says, "You were a police officer?" I was. And the first thing he asked me is a use of force question, which is pretty much means I'm done eating. Right? Because I'm like, wow, okay. So you guys finish eating while I answer this question for every cop who's ever put a badge on and been, you know, and so I can't imagine if if we open it up to community and what Major Harrell's concern is, as is mine is, we would be setting them up for whatever conversation.
Yeah.
And it needs to be guided, and they need to feel comfortable. They need to know that their answers, whatever they are, is valued, and that it is a safe place, just like the community members that we brought in. Because
Yeah.
Monique said it best, it is absolutely stakeholder engagement, and they are stakeholders in what we're doing and why we're doing it. So
I've got mixed feelings about the additional protection if they're going to participate. We didn't give anybody in the general population any special setup or scenario. And of course, we don't want them to feel attacked or whatever, but depending on what the comment was, healthy debate is going to happen. And so I think that what was important at our table is you guys read over it, but I want to make sure we read over it again. And that's what the guide rules are. So we're going to, respect each other's opinion. We're going to make sure everyone gets to talk before anybody gets to talk a second time, et cetera, et cetera. That I think the rules are pretty good across the board. And I don't know that we would get, I don't see the need to add anything else to it. Now, they may not decide, there may be two options from Major Harrell's perspective for the police, because I get they've got to, protect or do what they do. And perhaps, I think Kathy just said, we can have a civic dinner within the commission with them. They may be more comfortable with that, but I got to tell you, it might be a healthy debate from just the commission.
Oh, yeah.
No different than what they would get from the general public. So I don't see the need to do that, but I do say, hey, can we offer them both? I think it would be great for the public to be able to engage, from a community, involvement standpoint. But if they won't do that, well, are you at least willing to do it with the commission? Because they've been engaging with us pretty freely and seemingly authentically so far. So I say we have sort of two avenues we could go down with them.
So Connie, I think with the civic dinner, it's so much easier. The civic dinner just worked better for me, but I guess I don't know what happened. I bet some lawyers did this, but with the inclusive dinners, I think we're saying, okay, these police officers and commissioners having dinners and having these guided conversations the same way the rest of the community did. Now, I'm aware that there was law enforcement, not Brookhaven law enforcement, at some of the other dinners that, did come and lived in Brookhaven, and they were there. And so just like Brookhaven PD, if they live locally, or actually since they, work locally, they could have come to the other ones and engaged in conversation with the broader community with their perspectives. But I think as we are looking at this second step as a way to do stakeholder engagement in our committee for the work that we're specifically required to do, having a subcommittee member present at each table and engaging in that conversation furthers like our particular research work, not just, our recommendations, but just the actual research. And we just have to trust that we're representatives of the community. And so I don't believe that, your conversations with Connie Todd are going to be any easier because she is a, commissioner, that she is at first and foremost a citizen of the city of Brookhaven and will, give you her viewpoint. So I think we're in the great position that we check both boxes in that regard, and we'll be able to have great conversations if we're approved to do so, and hopefully again get a larger cross section of officers than the ones we've previously been exposed to that always seem so ready and eager. I will just point out for anybody who's don't know, or anyone who is viewing this, when we're saying that Major Harrell, was reviewing the meeting, again, she, in her role as our liaison, she does our minutes now. And so if she's not attending the meeting, her way of presenting our minutes and providing services to us as a liaison, she reviews the footage after the fact, and she's really great for doing that. And then if there's something that we're talking about that, we're like, hey, we need to follow up with BPD about this, or we think we know something based off of the data, she will shoot a note and offer feedback as if she was present at the meeting. And so that's the context in which she's, reviewing the meeting, and she'll continue to do that, which is a good service. Again, more stakeholder engagement. Obviously, Davis's brilliant idea just occurred. Did anybody have any other thoughts on what stakeholder engagement would look like for our committee and the work that we've been trusted to do?
Hey, did we say Davis's idea was brilliant?
It was. It was. It's recording too. It's recording. He's gonna have it.
Look, I'm gonna repeat. Kathy, Janice, and Connie all said thumbs up.
They did.
I can leave. Like I'm leaving now. I'm gonna walk out the door. That's it. My life is
It's gonna be
complete.
your ringtone. We're gonna see you again. It's gonna be his ringtone. It'll be like,
Hey, what about ride-alongs?
Ride-alongs are with the commissioners or with
Our subcommittee riding along with BPD.
Would that accomplish much more than
I mean, I don't know. It's just
we already had? And are we engaging a different stakeholder around this issue? Because I think if we were able to do the dinners, then we should maybe move on to other aspects of stakeholders.
True.
In this regard.
Go ahead, Janice.
Monique or anybody, will you clarify what you mean by stakeholder engagement? Other than being everybody, what exactly does that mean?
The community. So we were talking about how do we as the subcommittee have identified these issues, and then we're extrapolating like data and determining, kind of what kind of recommendations we want to make. But one aspect of our recommendation has to be what the community thinks about, these issues that we've already said, were important. And then, how to move forward on those issues. And so when we're talking about the community, we're talking about the law enforcement themselves. We're talking about your neighbors. We're talking about the businesses. And so some subcommittees are sending out surveys on their issues to get feedback from stakeholders on these issues and informing their recommendations by that. We don't know yet what we're going to do, like to get feedback from the community, the larger community. Are we comfortable that we are, representatives of the larger community, and that, folks are probably going to fall in line, or feel similar to how we feel about issues? And I was hopeful in the beginning that would be it, because hey, it's 35 of us, but we also realize that no matter how different we are as a commission, we all cared about the work that, even the title had in it. And so we probably don't really have diversity of thought, just deep thought on it. Like we're all probably on the same, at least surface couple of pages. And so therefore we're trying to make sure that we do get a deeper understanding of what the community as a whole, so meaning City of Brookhaven, feels about these issues. Connie?
Does anyone on our subcommittee speak Spanish?
Not fluently.
So I would say that has to be one component that we've got to, well, we're saying we're going to engage stakeholders. If we don't speak Spanish, we're probably not engaging the ones that the police engage to a degree. And so how do we touch that population, and where do we is there resource, available for us to, I know a lot of translators or what have you that we could bring in. They may already have some with the police, and that could be well, no, I wouldn't want the police to be interpreting what they're saying about the police. So maybe not that way, but we've got to consider that, and that we might want to get that in the works. Whatever community engagement that we're going to do, or stakeholder engagement, we've got to touch the Spanish as a first language community, and some of which don't speak English that clearly as a second language.
So as
I'm not part of the subcommittee, but I could help with translation if you need me on any event or any meeting that you would like to hold. And if you want to have somebody who can translate, I can definitely help with that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marcella. For Connie and I's question, the 4P part, because it did really deal with the designation of Hispanics as Black and white, understanding, we definitely need to engage the Hispanic population on that issue. We have made connections with the Latin American Association and really trying to figure out what way they can assist us in engaging the population around that issue. And so I did get some contacts, and I'm still trying to work on like a real recommendation for stakeholder engagement in that regard. I think that translation is definitely helpful, but Mindy and I did also have like really deep conversations about what that is. Like we had information that's translated verbatim, cool, but to have a informed conversation about an issue, you need to do more than, the way that I know how to translate, into Spanish. You have to actually translate the essence of the work versus just word for word, because it just doesn't translate well, for no pun intended, if you don't know. And so really trying to tap into the communities that are already doing this work and align with them is really what I wanted to do. And so my contact, or my request of our contact at the Latin American Association, was really whether they have any policing data already, like just data on needs and identification and police engagement kind of already, because again, we always want to be mindful that there are people out here already doing the work before we were even thought of as a commission. And so hoping that we can build on that or be informed by that. So
I have a question.
Kathy, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I have a question. So we're talking about having this dinner. I'm just goal focused. So we need to think about what the outcome is going to be. When we walk away, what will we come away with? How we engage with the police. Is it going to be on the 4 questions, or the activities that we selected as these are the things that we're doing our research on? What is our ultimate goal to meet with them? What is the outcome? What you're wishing to get from it? Just to meet. Why are we doing it? Yeah, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. What would be your goal, Davis? What would you like to see when you walk away from that meeting? What do you hope you will come away with?
Just like, the civic engagement dinners were meant for us to, ask these questions about race. And, when have you seen an instance, or when did you notice that the world and the way it is with race is things are not equal? Did you feel there was something you could do about it? Did you feel like you should have? Did you feel like you could? The last part, I love that last question, that 3-part question. What does racial equality look like to you? What's one thing you'd like to see massive change, as you're on this earth? And the last part, what can you do in your community to help? I would love to ask that of the people that were, like if we're going to ask citizens, I would love to just hear their responses and kind of gauge the pulse of where they are, because they're as much a part of our work as, when we read their data, sometimes you're just reading something versus being able to sit in a room and ask the same questions. And, just give them a chance to show their human side, whether we agree with
the same questions we used before.
Yes, ma'am. I would change nothing. I would just do it with law enforcement officers. Yeah.
The only thing, Davis, is your vision that we have a table of 4 or 6, whatever it is, that one of us is host and the rest are police officers? Is that your vision? Okay, yes, not necessarily a mix, or maybe. So Here's what I would say. I would add a second one of us that is participating, but capturing note. If that's the way it is, then the notes of how they engage might become somewhat important, just in terms of follow-up information or questions. I wonder, it makes me wonder if maybe, hell, I don't know, a focus group of some sort, if we're trying to see where their head is around community commitment and involvement. And not that that's the intent of the civic dinners, but when you walk away, you could tell who's committed, who's ignorant, who's really open to learn and grow, and who's curious versus who's defensive, et cetera. So you walk away with a better feel, still awesome, of the whole community and all of the differences in it. So I love Kathy's question, and making sure that we can do something with the information becomes more important for me. And then still, as a citizen outside of the subcommittee, I'd like to do a civic dinner with police. I don't know if it's going to give us, as the subcommittee, an opportunity to have data that we can make a recommendation to. So is that a good use of our time? Now I'm changing my mind of how we might engage them, but I think it's an excellent idea for us to somehow engage them.
I like the conversation around that. What maybe I would suggest also is more so a debriefing than from the host. You don't want it to be so, I guess, we're transcribing to the point that people are not going to be authentic, right? Like, if a police officer feel like they're being interviewed and recorded, then, maybe, obviously they're not coming to this knowing that they can be reckless if they want to keep, their jobs and all these good things. So I don't expect anybody to be reckless. But I do want to provide a comfortable environment where folks feel like they can be transparent. And so I would want there to be one or two non-police officers there, just to make sure that the conversation is it's flowing and it is authentic. And maybe by having, one or two or three, I guess, rather, commissioners, then we do the work with, kind of summarizing what the takeaways were from that particular data or that particular dinner, so that we can use it to continue to inform our work. And it's not about what one particular officer said or didn't say, but if you were sitting at the table and your takeaway from your table was, hey, on these questions, it just seemed like most people were feeling X, Y, and Z, and this is what we got. Then as we're looking at, again, the areas that we've determined were important, it again informs your work. It's not scientific.
I don't know, because I think part of the whole point of the civic dinners is you come without judgment. And I think that we're saying we get to judge them and do what with the data. This is a great conversation and debate. I'm back to what Kathy said, is to what end? And so really, do I want to judge how they feel about it to determine what? And is that even fair to them?
No, because it would be a guarded conversation. I'm just thinking about from a police's point of view. We're there, and my question is like, I see that you're doing this, and that. From my perspective, I'm community police engagement. I see that you're doing this seems to be working really well. What can you do better? What other activities have you been in, before that you saw that was effective in another walk of life that you probably could put here in Brookhaven? Because I want to know, can we increase community engagement? So my question, that third question that you were talking about, Davis, I might be able to get something to put down for community engagement, because I would like to see more police engagement. It wouldn't be so much that I'm judging you. I'm using the knowledge that you have coming into this conversation as a part of that question, because I want to know more about how you want to engage.
Is that more appropriate for a survey then? I mean, we're looking at all the tools that are available to us in order to have stakeholder engagement, and then maybe we don't see the benefit of a dinner. Davis, your idea may be less brilliant than we thought, and so
It's still brilliant. It's still brilliant.
I like the dinner idea.
Hey, Zaki, did you have something?
Zaki?
Yes, I was kind of thinking about this whole approach of inclusive or civic dinners, right? It certainly helps with having that structured conversation, but again, to what everybody's talking here, I think that's not, it's not the forum to solicit opinions and then kind of provide feedback, especially coming from police officers directly. But I was on the Inclusive website. Looks like they also have a platform for companies where they can build connection among employees and customers by creating brave spaces for peer-to-peer learning. So I'm not sure if there is something similar where a similar product where they can tailor for civic employees and citizens to have communication in a more structured way, because I think this is going to be I mean, at the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve, right? Trying to either educate, because this process of inclusive dinners is more educational, learning about others' experiences and enriching my own. How will that help in our approach? So
Yeah. Can I add my 2 cents here, which is when I think of the stakeholder engagement piece, and to Kathy and Connie's point of like what we need to get out of it, I see civic dinners more as of a sort of like an extra credit assignment where these conversations can give you the confidence that you need, or maybe make you second guess some of your recommendations just based on conversation, but it's not the forum where you will get the answers that you need to make a recommendation. So when I look at the four things that we're looking at, my question is, like, when it comes to, let's say, number 1, complaint data and outside review, what information, knowledge do you need to make a solid recommendation about that? I think right now, Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some conversation if there needs to be some level of external review over the complaint data, because the issue is that it's people reviewing themselves, and is that just, and is that fair, and does it do justice to the people who are making the complaints, right? And so, yeah, you're probably not going to get that out of a civic dinner. Will you get that out of stakeholder engagement? Maybe not. Will you get that out of doing research and saying, you know, how have other communities dealt with this? Yeah, that's kind of like where my mind goes. So I think I would encourage you. I still want to do the civic dinners because I do think it's important that, you know, we're able to say at the end of this that we did have conversations with police, and we, you know, yeah, that we engage them. But there is a more like pointed element to stakeholder engagement that I think we also need to consider. And so I remember, Monique, or I think someone, the idea was thrown out there of having like a survey out to community to really try to grasp at this piece of like, is the community comfortable with engaging the police? And so, you know, it's those kinds of ideas that I think we need to try to firm up.
And how will the survey be delivered to the community?
Well, it depends, and that's what we're here to discuss. So I think maybe a way forward for our next meeting would be everybody go back to their own 4P assignment and tell me what you think stakeholder engagement would look like for your particular area. Just if you're looking at, you know, what, to Mindy's point, like what do you need from the community to help inform a recommendation around this area? And then who in the community, what particular stakeholders? Again, back to like Connie and I, we can't get anywhere on our issue without engaging the Hispanic community. Like that is the issue, right? So we will have to discuss what community engagement looks like, what tools are available to us, and then The same for, you know, for Davis's and SJREC's issue. I believe yours was about like the oversight committees mentioning, and who, again, like to determine whatever recommendation you're going to make. We don't know what it is yet because you're still fleshing through your thoughts on it, but what other piece do you need? And where would that piece come from? Who in the community can give you that piece? Is it law enforcement? Do you just only care what law enforcement thinks about this issue, and you want to talk to them? And so if you want to talk to them, is it a in-person conversation with a small subset that maybe Major Harrell puts available for you to interview, you know, and do that piece? Or is it surveys to city residents or whatever? But like, we know that other subcommittees, for instance, their surveys, to answer your question, Kathy, like their surveys for the procurement and contracting committee, their surveys went out to like everyone who's ever submitted an application for a contract in the city of Brookhaven or something like that, because that was their target audience for the work that they're doing. Ours is a lot broader, right? Because the people who are impacted by policing is everybody all the residents. So we know we're going to need a sample. We obviously can't, you know, survey everybody. We also know that you can't email everything because everybody doesn't have access to email. We also know that you can't call everybody because everybody doesn't have a cell phone. And we may be disenfranchising the very people that we're, you know, concerned about. So that is what we're asking you all, and that will be one of our agenda items for the next meeting, is to just really flesh that out for just your individual piece. In a perfect world, you know, who would help you inform your piece of the pie? And then understanding we don't live in a perfect world, what will you settle for? And let's see if we can get our liaisons to help us create that forum to get the community feedback. Does that sound good, Mindy?
Yeah, and I would also just mention, you know, knowing what some of the other subcommittees are working on, they have identified some really basic things where, you know, they feel pretty confident about recommending them with little engagement. Let me give you an example. So hiring has been looking at the city of Brookhaven's hiring practices, and in reading, you know, the policy manuals and procedures that they have, realized that one very basic thing that they weren't doing is exit interviews. So how do you know why people are leaving, and if it's an equity issue, without even doing so? Really need to talk to that many people to understand that. So just keep in mind that there's some questions that you may be able to answer without, you know, 100 surveys.
Yeah.
And maybe just a little bit of research.
Yeah, I was kind of reading this, you know, we were given the assignment for training for our 4Ps, and I was looking at the Heschinger report. It's an interesting article which talks about how police academies began to adopt an aggressive military approach to training in the 60s and 70s amid the escalating war on drugs. And then when politicians started campaigning on law and order in the 90s, they shifted that more towards community policing. And again, the attacks of 9/11 made the police force more of the warrior style training and prompted police departments to increase their reliance on military equipment. And when we look at the data for how the trainings are structured, I mean, it's very interesting here because the data shows that the police recruits in basic training spend approximately 60 hours on firearms, 51 on self-defense skills, and only about 11 hours on cultural diversity, and about 8 hours on meditation and conflict. And I know it goes on and talks about how you now have a guardian approach for training where it revolves around resolving disputes and winning public trust. So I think one of the things that we can probably go back to the police as Brookhaven PPD is to see what approach are they using? how many hours do they actually spend in this non-firearm and non-self-defense skills, and what can be done, and what is that is done differently in other areas that can be brought over here, right? Because even if you look at the data and the number of complaints, when I look at that, it again comes down to SOP violations, rudeness, inappropriate contact. It's not to do with not using the firearms correctly, right? So most of the complaints that we get from the people looking at the data is from those areas where they don't have adequate training. So it kind of correlates to that. So those are the areas maybe we can address. Who are our stakeholders in this? To address this, maybe we can reach out. I don't know who. Some studies that have been done outside of Brookhaven, independent research that has taken place. We can collect that, and I think that's one of the recommendations from our group. Nisi and I, Janice and I, were working on this, and maybe we can think on those lines.
That's good.
Monique?
Yeah.
I had one question come up at one of my civic gatherings that I would like to see if we can get an answer from Major Harrell or somehow address to the police. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
A question regarding how do the police handle suspicious activity? And what happened was a lady of color, a neighbor called on her to the police for suspicious activity. And it turned out all it was, she was a resident there in the neighborhood, just opening her garage and picking up pine cones. And they thought there was some kind of suspicious activity. And 3 police cars come to her house, I mean, talk about kind of overkill, but I mean, yeah, or a black man walking along the sidewalk and someone thinks there's suspicious activity. Now, how do the police handle that? And then a question that came up in the group was, if it's found that there isn't any real suspicious activity, it's just a neighbor, do the police get back to the neighbor, the other person who reported it, and let them know, this is just your neighbor. This is someone who lives here. He has a right to be here and be walking, be picking up pine cones, that there's no untoward activity going on.
I do think Major Harrell will be able to speak to that. And when she reviews this, she will. Like I said, I'm personally familiar with the how it's addressed in our community, and how they really do have a practice of letting the citizens know that their suspicions were unwarranted.
Yeah. Do they actually go back to the?
Yeah, at least in our situation, they did, because they were kind of, the residents were picking on a Black guy who had been in the community for a very long time, and like to call the police on him whenever he started walking around. And so they did actually have to do that. And I don't know if that was part of their routine practice or just really best use of resources to start letting folks know, so that they would stop calling them over these things. But I do know that they did feel that they needed to respond in person to these calls, which was which was interesting. But yeah, I look forward to hearing what her response was. But I do know that there's
to know.
Okay.
I have a question that was posed to me as well. A person mentioned that they were looking at Brookhaven's website, and it was a Black man that apparently was, they were looking for a suspect, and they posted his whole picture there. It was just like saying, we caught him, but they haven't been to court yet. So how could you? I mean, you just say we caught him, and we know how many people have been charged and they've been innocent, but to put it out there like that, saying, oh, top guy who was doing what and what. And this lady was saying, how is that legal? If they could put your face up. Well, we see it on media all the time. You know what happens to Black men in media is they post their pictures, and we don't know what happens in court. But for it
Is
to be
that
on your website in a city, because the majority of the people who are arrested in Brookhaven are not from Brookhaven, and the majority of them are Black. So that's one of the things that this person brought up in our meeting. I mean, they talked about affordable housing, but that was one thing that they were saying. I don't know the answer. I don't know how they do. I know this legal.
Yeah, the only thing I would think maybe, Kathy, and the police part would have to answer, but if that's, remember the stabbing that happened on the Greenway? You
Maybe
know,
that was
through
it.
video
Maybe that was
cameras, they absolutely positively identified the fella, right? So the action was on camera. So there's
good.
kind of the suspicion of it is gone. It's like, we know who it is. And then when they found him, and I almost think they probably do that to tell the citizens, hey, the guy that did that is,
Oh,
you know, go back out and walk a little bit is why they would do that.
that's a good
And
answer.
I think they would probably only do that when they had an absolute positive identification on something like that, because you would be opening, in my experience, you would be opening yourself up to a can of worms if it wasn't the actual person who committed the crime. So that was a great question by somebody though, because
That's
it's,
a great answer.
yeah.
Hey, Davis, you know, I got to challenge you on that one.
You do, you challenge everything, and that's
I
fine.
know.
I love it.
I know. And that is that just because you saw it on camera, Black people look alike. We all look alike. And let me tell you, my mom has been mistakenly, the FBI came to our house and said, hey, you stole this U-Haul truck and you murdered somebody in the truck. And they came in to arrest my mom. Lady had an afro. This was back in the day. It wasn't my mom.
Wow.
And so they were sure that they had the right person. It came to our house, rang the doorbell. So someone had stolen my mom's ID out of her purse.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, the lady did kind of look like my mom. But on the flip side, that is not always the case. It's who's making that judgment call. Even if you think about, anyway, it's not cut and dry just because they think they got the right person on camera. And there's got to be some protocol.
And I do know that I don't know what the policy is that's associated with it, but I've definitely noticed a deliberate, and I will call it deliberate, in the way that they are, at least Brookhaven PD is engaging the community as on Nextdoor. You know, they have like a liaison that comments on Nextdoor. And so someone is out here and they broke into a car and the person had on like a red sweater and blue jeans and was 5'4", had dark hair, and be on the lookout. And everybody in the comments are like, so we're just not going to say what race he is, right? You know, we're not going to say what race he is. Is that what we're doing here? So I'm just on, like, anybody in a red hoodie with blue jeans, black tennis shoes, dark hair, and 5'7", and I get it. And as a citizen, it is ridiculous, because I'm like, if I'm on the lookout, can we
Right.
like that? But it is something that is deliberate, and I've seen it in a lot of their posts, because I know if you can tell me what color their hair is, you could pretty much tell me what color their skin was, unless it was at night and they had the hoodie or a scully on. But or they'll post the picture, you know, the Ring camera picture that, to me, you know, I can see that the person is dark skinned, they're some form of Black, but they have, again, a guy in a red hoodie and blue jeans and you know, stands about 5'8", and this and the third, and here's his picture. So you take from that what you may, and I'm sure that, you know, that is the too far gone result of some earlier conversations about race and identifying people by race. And so that is when I feel personally that it borders on ridiculousness, when you're really trying to put the community on notice of potential danger, and versus, you know, the opportunity for mistaken identity, because, you know, again, heaven forbid my Black son goes outside with his red hoodie on. The second you said that there was a Black person, and he's nowhere near 6 foot, but he's Black with a hoodie, and that might be enough. And so just trying to balance that, and I wonder the evolution of that process. So I would love to hear their feedback to that question. thank you both for your input. Okay, so we have our marching orders on that, Connie. I love your picture. Let's see. So the final thing for our meeting tonight is we talked last time about the fact that we were meeting every 2 weeks. And I know all the subcommittees do not meet every 2 weeks. I know we got a little time this time because we had a meeting canceled, but we were supposed to revisit whether we could extend our cadence a little bit to not overwhelm or overwork our subcommittee members. Before I take feedback on that, I wanted to ask Mindy regarding where we are in the process and what you've seen us already accomplish and what we have left to accomplish. You know, would it be prudent to change our cadence, and what are the other subcommittees doing? And you know, just some feedback on that for us.
So the other subcommittees, they are doing once a month. Personally, I would like to keep us right now at every 2 weeks because we are behind on, I guess, on the stakeholder engagement piece. You know, mission and vision is kind of a weird sort of thing because they've not entirely followed the process just given what they're working with. But I know hiring and procurement, they've figured out their surveys and honestly, it's a little bit more straightforward for them. And so, yeah, I would ask that at least until we have the stakeholder engagement figured out, that we continue, unless you feel that it would be more productive to meet as these smaller groups. Because what's happened with our subcommittee is it seems like there are going to be different stakeholder engagement methods working rather than a singular one for our entire subcommittee. We might be trying, let's say, 2 different things. And I'm not including civic dinners in this, even though I do think we should do civic dinners. Yeah. Okay.
Any thoughts, anybody else, generally speaking, on that? Let's see, I see a comment.
I have one real quick. I was just saying I had to go, but Mindy, I love what you're saying. I'm wondering can we maybe find out what the other folks are doing and potentially piggyback some stakeholder engagement opportunities? That might be a great, bigger discussion. And I don't know if the way to do it is, Monique, the community chairs, or Mindy, you can spearhead finding out what might fit for our committee based on
we actually raised that question, and Connie, I think at the last executive committee meeting, I was like, yeah, y'all send out surveys. Can we throw some questions in there in y'all survey? So we're not, you know, surveying a bunch of people a bunch of times. And I don't really remember what the response was. I think they laughed. I'm not sure, but I was serious. So I do need to follow up with that, Mindy, if you think there's an opportunity for that, we'll do that. And
great. See you guys later. It was great.
All right, Connie, I'm gonna text you so we can.
But Mindy, may I ask a question? Okay, are they doing surveys now? The other groups?
Some are back, done.
Some of them haven't done.
They're done.
What is the success, the return rate of them? What tool?
That's a great question. So let me first, I don't have the answer to that specific question. I will say that their audience was much more narrowed because hiring is surveying City of Brookhaven employees, procurement is surveying everyone who was and was not awarded a contract, I think over the past year or 3 years. So now that I'm saying that's loud, piggybacking might not be as feasible, but you know, could we draw from their survey structure, certain questions, things like that? I do think.
I think that's exactly what may have been kind of where we were when we found out who their audiences were. And I did think that they got a surprisingly, at least one of the subcommittees reported that they had a surprisingly high response rate to their survey. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, let's see if that, but Connie's comment to, just again, see if we can engage the community in what already exists in terms of data, that ask of City of Brookhaven Police to provide their stakeholder, their community engagement partners, and they turned around and did provide that data. Maybe meeting with the heads of those organizations, like if we break them up and just kind of talk to them about their relationship, again, since they serve the community with a very intentional focus wherever they come from, then getting their feedback should be reflective of the parts of the community that they serve. And so that may be a way that we can, reach out, again, going to the Latin American Association, not burdening their already great work that they do and asking them to administer a survey for us, but asking if they'll share one that they've administered, or which I imagine they already have. And the same for whatever synagogues are in Brookhaven. Like, what is your relationship with them look like? If I was on your 4P part, Kathy, I would most definitely, all these people who they feel like they have these relationships with, I want to know what the other party feels like. You know how they say you ask somebody about the marriage and then ask the spouse and you get different answers. Ask someone else and see what value is put in that relationship, and what do the people that they serve, think in general, and it might be a good data point. So. All right, y'all, we are over time. We started late, so this is the 12 minutes late that we started, so we're here now. I will get ready to adjourn the meeting. Right now, we have that our next meeting is August 25th at 5:30, so again, 2 weeks from now. Can we all just kind of agree to communicate on Basecamp with some thoughts, and I will promise to get our agenda out next week as a prompt for you to really think about your community engagement piece if you don't do anything between now and this time next week. So at least you'll be ready for the following week. But that will really be the only thing on our agenda, along with whatever we're charged with at our next commission meeting. So if you will please do that. Marcelo, when I saw you come back on the camera, I am imagining you're asking me about the meeting minutes. And
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I just wanted to let you know that, just for the record, there are no comments or questions on this meeting. Really.
Thank you. I've looked at the meeting minutes. I'm going to venture that no one else has at this moment. So if what I would like to do for our next meeting, the 2 items on there will be to review the meeting minutes from the last 2 meetings, and if that's appropriate, and then discuss our stakeholder engagement. Mindy, what do you have to say?
I was just going to say, based on my experience, that is fine. Yeah, it's something I had to talk to Burke about in the past, so.
Okay.
Procedurally, I think that is fine.
Well, we'll be told if we're out of Robin rules or sunshine laws or something. But I appreciate y'all's flexibility, and yeah, just we're on time considering how late we started. Thank you all for your time this evening, and anyone that joined in. Any departing comments from Kathy Davis, Janice, Zaki?
I just thank Davis and Janice for your meeting. Was it last night? Did you have a meeting?
Yes, it was last night.
What meeting was that?
This was the District 1 council meeting.
Oh,
Mindy was there as well. Went really well. There was 8 people in attendance from District 1. All of them were Caucasian, everybody. And so there weren't a lot of questions, but we were able to fill it in. And there was nobody there who was curious on the negative aspect. Everybody was there because they were curious, wanting to see positive change, and they cared about Brookhaven, which I found interesting. But it was really good. And Janice, I just wanted to tell you that the lady that you're talking about, she sat at my table at my civic dinner and told me a little bit of the story. And so Miss Lynette is her name. And what an amazing story. Wow. But
We'll discuss it further then. I
Yeah.
look forward to.
Way to go, guys.
All right, you guys.
Good for y'all.
Thank you so much, and I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 6:44. So you may end the live and
Have a good week.
everyone
guys.
have a
Bye.
great week.